Hello, assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I'll just pick out three major points, and I'm hoping to stick to them and not talk too much because, as I said, the reason I've stopped talking too much about the political situation or the actual situation of Pakistan is because, as I said, I've been yapping for so long. All my podcasts on everything that makes the society toxic, on what the cultural aspects that are toxic, on the on how we've ended up with toxic politicians and how our country has been hijacked and how our country was actually hijacked the very day it was founded. The proof of it lies in the fact that Qaid Azam died, then his sister died. They were both basically. Qaid Azam could have been saved, seriously. The way it was delayed, that caused his death. That was very obvious that the British hand was still at play. It was very obvious that Pakistan had been hijacked. Then after that, the army, and you can see that it's the army throughout. Right from day one, it's the army. Because Fatma Jinnah was also killed by the army. Even now, who is the one who is after Imran Khan? The army. So I'm tired basically of repeating myself again and again. As I said, the people of Pakistan, they need to stop. They really need to stop enduring. God is not going to give you an award for endurance. If anything, He's going to probably punish you. Because as I said, in Islam, you cannot accept or endure a tyrannical rule because it's not about you, it's about everybody else. It's about the whole country. It's about other people getting affected apart from you. It's not something that's being done to you as an individual. It's something that's being done to your whole nation. It is something that will affect your generation, but the next generation and the next generation and the generation after that. So you become culpable, you become responsible. And the reason that is why, and also one of the main reasons, as I mentioned last time when I said that I will no more be talking to in such depth about what is going on, is because, well, finally, Dr. Shahbaz Gill and Dr. Mohit Pirzada, both of them have started their own English vlogs as well. They call them vlogs, so I have to say that. But I mean, they've opened their own English vlogs. And so that I think is the best thing ever because they've recognized the fact that yes, they have to share all that information in English as well to the international world. So as you know, Dr. Shahbaz Gill already has a Punjabi vlog and then he has an Urdu vlog and now he has an English one. Dr. Mohit Pirzada has an Urdu vlog and he's got now an English one. So please do go there and refer to them. Also, Samina Pasha, I think there is a channel that has taken up translating her vlogs in English as well. So yeah, so finally the people who are, who have sources of accurate information are coming forward with English vlogs. So why listen to me when you can listen to them for accurate information? Now, so 3 points here. As I said, keeping all of this in mind, you can understand the context. India. Now, as we know, India is being flooded from occupied Kashmir through Himachal, all the way through Punjab, right? And here's the interesting thing actually. According to the people in India, according to the affected areas, they are treating this whole flood as a man-made flood. Remember how I first talked about how this flood is actually most probably man-made. Because come on, as I said, for decades we've been having monsoons, we've been having floods, but never this scale of devastation, right? Now it's interesting how even in India they consider that this flood is man-made, that it could have been controlled. It normally is always controlled, and also because they're going through more or less the same thing that we are. And that is that their farmers too are being forced to sell their land. Interesting point, isn't it? Notice how the land encroachment by the governments of all countries. Remember, I talked about how in America also the farmlands are being forced to sell out because the government is working with some private company or a semi private or an autonomous company, I don't know. You never know with them. And as I said, the way it seems to work, I think no company in America is 100% private. I think there's always something in which they come under the American government. Otherwise, how else would an American government order YouTube or Metaverse or any other social media platform to, or even those who are involved in exploiting petroleum, and they win contracts in other countries to exploit petroleum. They're supposed to be private companies, but the government seems to order them, including Google as well. That's another social media platform. So they can so easily be ordered by the American government to break contracts here and there, to shut down oil wells where they're working. It's weird. Okay, it's weird. I do not consider American companies 100% private in any case, the way it's been going on for years. And that I will come to that too, as in when we'll talk about Nestle, which is actually a Jewish company, and it's not even American, but it is actually a European company, and it is pro-Israeli. The owner of Nestle is heavily invested in Israel, and he's heavily invested in the whole Zionist movement, like most of these Jewish companies that began in Europe, as we know. So I'll come to that too. But I mean, as I said, very interesting, isn't it? The land encroachment, forcing farmers, because actually the reason why people are always looking for farms, they're huge. It doesn't matter which country you're talking about, be it Pakistan, be it India, be it America. They own land in acres, that is hectares, okay? They own land in hectares. It's huge. It's a huge amount of land, no matter how you see it. They don't have just a canal or two canal or 10 canals of land. No, they're owning acres or hectares of land. It's huge. And that is how they manage to, after all, feed the country, and that is how they manage to export their goods. I mean, how do you think of farmers manage to produce so much, that they can feed the country and export to other countries? I mean, you have to have ample land to do that. As we know, the army in Pakistan has been forcing the farmers to sell out their lands for less than the actual price, and so the armies have the farmers have been protesting, as we know. And as we know, on the other side now, we're finding out that they're going through the same thing, where the federal government, the Indian federal government, seems to be trying to force the farmers in Punjab, in Indian Punjab, to sell their farmland or to give up their farmland. And I think that is also understandable as to then why during the flood many Punjabi families, Sikh families, they kind of even refused to leave their homes. They were like, let it get flooded, let everything get destroyed. I don't care. I'm not leaving my home, especially the really older generation. They were very adamant. As you've seen, the older generation here in Punjab, in Pakistan's Punjab too, have been very adamant, and they weren't budging. And the rescue people were, with the few rescue people that were active, they literally carried them on the bed that they were sitting on, or on the chairs that they were sitting on, or whatever it is, and they would just carry the whole thing. They're like, okay, you're coming with us whether you like it or not, because at the end of the day, life is sacred. Material loss is huge, but at the end of the day, life is sacred. But one understands then where they're coming from, right? First of all, it's their hard work, it's their whole life's hard work that is going down the drain. And secondly, it's this conspiracy that is being and it's not a theory, because if it's on both sides of the border, I mean, here we actually had them in action trying to steal lands from the farms and from farmers. And as we know, as I've talked about this in many different ways and in many different podcasts, and especially in the recent ones when we talked about the floods and everything, that our current government is the land mafia. Yeah, the Punjab government is actually the land mafia itself, and they have encroached upon lands to make residential areas, and they've encroached upon farmlands to make their orange train, which at the end of the day we had to add more money to stabilize, because the Chinese engineers with whom we were partnering with, they rejected it immediately. They're like, we're not going to start anything on this because it's not even stable, it can collapse any day. So this is how much money and how much monetary loss they caused us, apart from the land loss that they caused us, which means again future money loss, because those were farmlands. Not to mention the greenery. Remember the 20-30% of Lahore's greenery that they just rendered obsolete in this whole process. So, very interesting that, I mean, as we know, occupied Kashmir in India, it's occupied. There is a reason why the Western world is working with India to keep it occupied. As I said, the American interests lie there with the Chinese border. So, their access to China, that is why India and India, on the other hand, wants to maintain a grip on Kashmir because of the water, because they can only control water if they have Kashmir. Once Kashmir is out of their hands, water is out of India's hands, and then now India will be literally at Kashmir's mercy. And if Kashmir chooses to join Pakistan, then India would be at Pakistan's mercy when it comes to water. So you understand, there is that. We cannot just say call this this is a fact. This is a political and historical fact. So, and I've mentioned this like 1,000 times on many of my previous podcasts as well. So as I said, that is why it is very, very, very interesting to note. Also more interesting to note is how India is behaving with its, at this particular time, how it is behaving with its foreign tourists. As in, there was a foreign tourist who had just been to India and then came to Pakistan and then went to Dubai and then went to different countries around Asia and then went came to India, Pakistan, Dubai, and then was from Dubai going back to India. But and the funny thing, as he said, was that he was allowed entry, and that he spent so much money on the flight. He already had a visa. It was a year's worth of visa. And then he, as you know, the Indian are notorious. The Indian authorities, or then the airlines, they're notorious for never doing a refund, even though it's their fault. And in this case, it was 100% their fault, because he spent all that money because he had the visa. He took the flight. He went there. He was allowed entry in the beginning, and then he was denied entry by the immigration, and then he was then imprisoned. Yeah, and then he was imprisoned, and then he was sent back to the flight, which again I think he had to pay again. He paid for that flight, although actually it's the Indian authorities' responsibility to pay that flight if they are forcing somebody who has valid entry. If they're forcing that person to deport, then they have to pay for the flight. But I think they made him pay for that flight again, and he got no refunds. He got nothing. So there he was back in Dubai, and he was like, I want to know why. And the only answer, I think most of the people, the answer that they gave him was that it's because you visited Pakistan, and because you pointed out a lot of positive things about Pakistan, and you showed an unfiltered view of India and Pakistan. And many people also pointed out a very good fact, that actually even if you criticized Pakistan, the authorities would never stop you from coming to Pakistan. It is true. There are many people who have frequently come to Pakistan, despite them airing their criticisms or whatever. Nobody cares about these things in Pakistan, and most countries actually don't care. There are no authorities that are literally sitting and looking at a vlogger and saying, oh, this person just dissed my country, no entry. Only India is expected to do such a thing. But let's try to give them the benefit of the doubt, because I would say that it's not just him visiting Pakistan, but it's also the fact that when he was going back to India, right now India's flooded. Again, let me remind you, India and Pakistan both are drowning in floods. That means that obviously, especially at this time when the Indian media, as we have already covered in our previous podcast, India's media has been lying blatantly to the Indians and to the world at large with regards to the damage I know because I literally did a lot of research online, and literally even Google's AI that manages to get, information from various sources before giving you an answer, even the AI wasn't giving me accurate answer. It kept saying, no, the damage in Pakistan is way larger than the damage in India. And it's obviously the damage in Pakistan is also more because of India, adding to that damage by, sending the floods through. And yeah, okay, that is all acceptable. But the fact that even Google couldn't find out, and that India was actually in just as bad a condition. India's Punjab is in just as bad a condition as Pakistan's. Yes, Pakistan's condition is, it tends to get worse because when India floods, then obviously it opens again the floodgates, and then the flood comes to Pakistan. So then we deal with double flooding, if you know what I mean. So India's Punjab is in a way also dealing with double flooding. That is what nobody seems to understand. Listen, where is where is the water coming from? Kashmir, right? The rivers, they're all coming basically from Kashmir, right? Okay, from the Himalayas through Kashmir. Okay, so you've got the rivers that are coming down from Kashmir, and then you've got the heavy rains, which, by the way, it's not raining so heavily here in Pakistan, despite the fact that I keep on getting these flashes of the weather forecast showing that it's literally raining cats and dogs in my area, but it's not, it's dry. And then I'm getting the forecast showing me light rain, and then, oh, heavy rain, and then again light rain. And right now it's literally showing me light rain, and there is no rain, which means it's raining in my city but not in my area. Again, this is what monsoon does. It rains in one part, it's completely dry literally 5 steps away. That is how monsoon works. Okay, so that means that, okay, it's raining, but you know what, in India's side of Punjab, it is really raining. You understand? I mean, even in our parts of Punjab. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. In the parts of both India and Pakistan's Punjab where it's raining, it is raining, and it's still raining. And it's basically been raining all night, according to the weather forecast right in front of me. Okay? At least for the past hour or two, it's definitely been raining. Okay? So now look at that, and then again in India it's still raining, in Kashmir it's still raining. Okay, now in Kashmir it's still raining. The dams that India made in Kashmir, thinking that, oh, we can control the whole source of water. I mean, this just shows how stupid they were actually, because you just can't. Okay, because there's something called God. Unfortunately for the whole world, he actually does exist, like it or not. And so he is there to remind you every now and then that he exists. Okay? So when India was playing God, thinking that we can hoard water, then God decided to replenish them with as much water as they wanted. So, and they couldn't hold that then. So that dam that they constructed right on the top of Ravi River in Kashmir, it just couldn't hold, because it's not even a large enough dam. Why? Because in that area they couldn't even construct a large enough dam to hold that much water. That's the point. So that dam overflowed, right? So they opened it. Where did all that water go? It went through Himachal. Then it went all the way down, and then it went to India's Punjab. So then they had to open how many floodgates in the process? Because remember, that is just the topmost dam that I'm talking about, that is in the occupied Kashmir area of India. So you open that floodgate, and then, or that dam, you allow breach. So you allow breach in that dam, and then you move forward to all the other dams that are now, you will allow another breach, then you will, and this is why we have 3 of our rivers that are overflooded, because it's not just River Ravi, right? So where else could they let the water flow? Chenab, Satluj, right? And Ravi. These 3 rivers. And then we in turn would again have to let it all flow to River Indus, which is in Sindh, which will go through Sindh in basically. So understand the common sense here, please. Water again comes from all the way up, goes all the way down. You have no choice. India has no choice. India has no control over the water, because now India is also getting again double flood. It's raining, plus they have to open their floodgates. That double flood is coming to Pakistan, because they're already, India has to drown first in order to let that water through to Pakistan. So India is drowning and it's double flood. Pakistan's already also flooded because of the rains. Our rivers are overflowing, and then we get that second flood coming from India. So both of us are actually having double floods. The only places that are getting single floods are the higher places like Kashmir, And in Pakistan, again, you're getting double floods even in the northern areas, because you've got the glacier outbursts. Remember the melting glacier? Their outbursts. So you're having double floods throughout Pakistan. And you're having double floods in most of northern India. If you remove Kashmir, because Kashmir is just having its regular flood, which is the rain and the overflowing rivers and the overflowing dams, which are going downstream anyway. But the rest of the northern India is getting double floods, just like Pakistan. And that is what you need to understand. So India's situation is critical, is what I'm saying. Critical. And then, as you know, the Punjab state in India, they do not even consider themselves part of India. They're fighting for their independence and everything. So they did not even ask for help from the federal government. Yeah, the Punjab government refused, in fact, from what I was listening to one of the Indian podcasters, who is a Punjabi. According to him, even when someone from within the federal government, I think, pretended to offer them help or something, they just refused. They're like, yeah, you know what, leave it. Again, it was a matter of dignity for them. And this is how our farmers here in Punjab are pissed off at the way that Maryam Nawaz is always trying to humiliate them. They're the ones who grew all that food, all that produce, that now Maryam Nawaz is able to give back some of it to them. And she's trying to humiliate them by stamping her big-ass face on every packet, as if she's giving them aid and charity from her own home. She's not. It's literally their own stuff going back to them. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I've made something, or I've produced something. The government has come and it has taken it from me, and then the government is now storing it all, right? It's literally like how you're paying taxes. You're giving taxes to the government because that money has to be used on you. And now if the government uses your own money on you and then says, oh, you need to thank me and you need to sing praises about me because, I am giving you this money. Bitch, it's my money. You're literally giving me back my own money, which I gave to you to give back to me in such times of crisis. So you're giving the farmers their own produce, basically. This produce, did you think that this produce just came as manosalva from God? No, it's your own farmers that grew it, harvested it, sold it to you, and for a loss, by the way. And then you hoarded all of that, and now you're giving that back to them, basically, in times of crisis. And now you want them to thank you and bow down to you and sing praises of you and say that, are you crazy? And so this is why our farmers are saying, our farmers are also like, you know what, we don't need anything. Get the hell out of our place. So, yeah. This is all about human dignity, which as I said, is not a luxury. In fact, this is exactly one of those things that we're going to be held accountable for. If you trespass on anybody's self-respect and dignity, even if you're their own parents, you will be held accountable. You will be punished. It's unforgivable according to the divine law. So if you think you're going to get away with it, you're not. Okay, so here's this thing. So I think most probably that is also why, because first of all, the guy was in a British, and then he was a British vlogger, and then he was a famous influencer. And so if he at this time were allowed to go to India, obviously he would go and vlog. At least they probably thought that, oh, okay, we the last thing we need right now are vloggers coming from abroad and giving their raw, unfiltered fact about the situation in India, about what's going on in northern India, because it's all flooded as hell and the government isn't doing jack shit. It's not providing aid to Kashmir anyway, and it's not providing aid to Punjab anyway. And so what's left? Because Himachal is also there. Nobody's getting any aid or any real relief from the government. No actual constructive work is being done on both sides of the border, by the way. Okay, so is probably thinking, the authorities are probably thinking, the last thing we need right now is a vlogger coming in here. And that is most probably why he was refused. And many foreigners are going to be refused at this point, so don't even try to go to India. And for your own safety's sake, I mean, seriously, don't just don't try to come to the subcontinent, because here people are struggling and they're trying to get their lives together. Okay, I know Pakistan is still always going to welcome everybody no matter what situation we're in. We're literally making memes out of our own situation as always, but you know yes, the cities are fine. The cities are not flooded. The urban areas are fine. Most probably, even in India, the urban areas may be fine. I don't know. But the point is that the farmlands make up a huge part of our states and provinces on both sides. So if those places get submerged, if those villages get submerged, if those farms get drowned and flooded, obviously it's a huge loss. And the whole country is getting together to help. So as we can see here in Pakistan also, it's the rest of the Punjab that is trying to help, obviously, the victims. And in India, they're literally at the mercy of again, their own selves, as they mentioned, that it's actually the Muslims who are trying to send them aid and supplies and everything, and the people within Punjab are again helping each other, but there's nobody else helping them from anywhere else. Well, the truth be told, I don't think anybody else, and even in the rest of India, even know what the actual situation is, because the Indian media is lying, both on local as well as international media. So what are people going to know what's actually happening here? I mean, yeah, but then one could argue that the social media is there. Everybody's on social media. People should know. They probably do, because in Pakistan, everybody does. And we know it because of the social media. So there is that. So this is one thing that we needed to point out and talk about. The second thing is Imran Khan. As we know, Dr. Shahbaz Gill and Dr. Moeed Pirzada now, but the first person to talk about it was Dr. Shahbaz Gill, is when he pointed out that they have, and this is something we've been actually off and on. We know that the army has been trying. I've also talked about it, and many people have talked about it, because this is something that you see happening, that the army seems to every now and then try to create a narrative of how sick Imran Khan is and this and that, and they always try to create that narrative so that they should look for a way where they can, God forbid, just get rid of him. But every time that narrative gets highlighted and people talk about it, then they are obliged to back off. So now once again they decided that, oh, now we can try and create a narrative. So they're creating various narratives, false narratives, and for two reasons. One, that they can use it, like the way they did it with Nawaz Sharif. Remember how they created this false narrative for Nawaz Sharif when he was imprisoned for corruption, and stealing and embezzlement. So when Nawaz Sharif, and he should have been also imprisoned for treason. I never understood why he never was imprisoned for treason, because that man, he is a treacherous a-hole. His whole family is, by the way, and so is Zardari. While we're at it, and this and all our army chiefs that have come and gone like this, they're all traitors. They should have all been charged for treason. But anyway, this is how laid back we are. We don't believe in cancel culture in Pakistan. So this is one of the cons of never having a cancel culture. There are more pros than cons, to be honest. So in a way, I am thankful that Pakistan doesn't have, or in fact, the Muslim world in general doesn't have a cancel culture. But that has proved very detrimental to us. Let's be honest, politically speaking, and on a global level too. Which will be my third point before I forget that, and that's going to be about Nestle and Telenor again. Once again, that just as a reminder. So, yeah, so our army is now creating this new narrative where once again they are trying to say that, oh, that we think that Imran Khan is really, really sick, and that, his medical report, they leaked a false medical report as always. It's always a false medical report. But they're trying to build that scenario where they should say that, okay, he should be allowed to. The scenario, as I said, was originally used in all the previous politicians, but especially the latest one was Nawaz Sharif, where his platelets suddenly went low. They actually used some dog's blood and pretended that it was his blood, and they said, oh, his platelets are low and this and that. And that time Imran Khan was obviously in the government, so Imran Khan was like, okay, yeah, just the government was like, okay, let him go and get his treatment. But the man basically decided to get his so-called treatment in England, basically wanted to escape. He left the country, and we know what happened after that. We're still regretting it, right? So now that is what they are trying to do with Imran Khan, that, oh, he has potential tumors and this and that, and all of it is false and exaggerated because, mashallah, as we know, he is as fit as a fiddle. But they're trying to create a panic situation as always. But this time round, what they were, according to Dr. Shabazz Gill, this time round, what basically they were trying to do was that create this whole scenario, and then finally, God forbid, get rid of him, and then put it all on Nawaz Sharif. Yes, Nawaz Sharif and Maryam Nawaz and all on their government. And the thing is that when Nawaz Sharif, according to him, when Nawaz Sharif and his family found out that, oh, this is what the army is planning, the army chief, then they knew that this would, the backlash that they would get, because they're completely zeroed out. They have seen it that Punjab has rejected them, and KPK is already in the mood to drum up a war. So is Balochistan. So, although Balochistan's war would be mainly against the army, KPK and Punjab's war would be against the government itself, the Punjab government especially. So, fearing all that backlash and that violence, which they know will come to them if anything happens, and they will get the blame for it. So then they decided to create this outlet where they now are doing some sort of they did a meeting in Murray where they said that, oh, you know what, he should be allowed, Imran Khan that is, he should be allowed to leave the country if needed, even for his medical checkup and treatment. So you see, this, as I said, is a two-way thing where it works for the army, because the army has been trying to strike a deal with Imran Khan that please leave the country, and he's refused. They're like, leave the country, strike a deal with us, get out of jail, and he refused on matters of principle. So, as I said, this works for the army either way, because either they, God forbid, try to again get rid of him, or if the government manages to somehow get him out on medical basis, but again, as we know, Imran Khan will refuse. And when he refuses, you will know that this whole medical report that was allegedly leaked is false. So then they will get stuck again. So there is this new conspiracy brewing, basically. Once again, there is this conspiracy brewing against Imran Khan. So keep that in mind. And then now we'll move on to, as I said, the lack of cancel culture and how it has proved detrimental for us, or to us. As we can see, we're going through all this BS that we're going through, all this crap, because we don't have a cancel culture, right? And it's also because we don't have a cancel culture that we allowed heroes like Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Qaid-e-Azam, and Imran Khan to shine, So, but again, as I said, the same thing is what has allowed these a-holes also to keep sitting on our heads. And this is also what has allowed this army right now to wreak havoc. I mean, the gall of this army, that they, on one side, they're making such a hue and cry about September 6th and our heroes and our war heroes, and yet one of your own war hero who was still alive, and that is Air Commodore Sajjad Haider, when he was still alive, but just because he was pro Imran Khan, like anybody and everybody who has contributed towards this country's safety, he was also pro Imran Khan. The way he was treated by Shabazz Gill actually identified the SHO as Varach, and we all remember that clip, that video of how the SHO insulted the Commodore, the Air Commodores, and how he behaved with him and his wife, and he told him just get out of here and this and that, and he kept on telling him, he's like, excuse me, I am Air Commodore Sajjad Haider, like the same person who you have the gall to celebrate every year on the 6th of September, and now I'm standing right in front of you. Basically is what he was trying to say, is that I'm that same person who you pretend to honor every year, and I'm right now in front of you, and this is how, you're talking to me. And I think that he is a true gentleman, that he did not smack the guy, that he literally very, very politely just told him 2 to 3 times. He's like, I am Air Commodore Sajjad Haider, and the SHO was like, yeah, and you burnt the Corps commander's house, and he said, I am the Air Commodores. Like, what he's trying to say is that I am part of the army. Like, what the frack are you trying to say to me? I am originally part of the army, and you're actually trying to say that just because I'm standing here today, you're saying that I actually burnt the I mean, that obviously, again, he didn't say that, but it was so obvious in the whole situation that anybody would just come and want to smack the SHO for even saying that to him. And and he treated him so badly, and the Air Commodore then decided to remind him of who exactly he was, and he said that I am the person that saved your country during the war. And the SHO was like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, oh, so basically now we're speaking the truth. Now we're speaking the truth. And again, this is proof of my point where I said that the army is in fact planted by the British. It was planted right from day one. Every time you have a chief of army staff, or every time you have a army chief sitting upon you, understand that that person has to first take oath in the American Constitution, or in the American establishment. He has to take oath that, yes, I renounce my religion, I renounce my faith, I renounce my patriotism towards Pakistan, I renounce the idea that Pakistan is a sovereign state, and I accept America as the true owner and the true authority of Pakistan, and I accept America as my master, and I accept America as my leader. Do you know that? I think I've mentioned that also in one of my podcasts a long time ago. Yeah, you actually have to take oath on that, and you have to sign that affidavit, and then you're allowed to become army chief. And that is why you have so many times seen that the army chief, the person who's actually supposed to be next in line, is usually not. And somebody who's not even supposed to be there becomes the army chief. The current one being the most recent example. So, you're literally telling that the Air Commodore Sajjad Haider should have been ashamed of himself for saving Pakistan, that the biggest mistake he ever did was to try to save Pakistan, because that is not what he was supposed to do. That basically, obviously the Air Force and the Navy are different, right? It is our ground forces, the army itself, that we have a problem with. Always. It's always the army. It's never the Navy. It's never the Air Force. It's always the army that has always been the one that has been committing treason throughout history. Always. Notice that. So it's the army we're talking about when we say that they are the traitors, and they're the plants, and they're the minions, and they're the hijackers. They're the ones, they're the fifth columnists. Apart from your politicians, the army institution is your fifth columnist institution that has been planted right from the beginning. And this is why this is the institution that always comes up and wreaks havoc. This is the institution that always commits treason. So you're actually insulting the Air Commodore because he is pro Imran Khan and because he is talking about Pakistan's sovereignty, right? And then you are pretending to honor him. And now he's dead, obviously he's passed away, but he literally passed away in January, I think, January this year. So you're telling me that this is what you really think. So this is why, since these 2 years, every time they try to celebrate or talk about the martyrs and the heroes of Pakistan, this is why people are not at all interested. We're not interested because they are not celebrating the real heroes or the real martyrs. They're just pretending to celebrate. They are the ones who have caused their own harm. As I said, this particular batch of army has caused so much harm to its own. Remember, our army is composed of two factions. One is pro-Pakistan, the other is pro-American. So the pro-Pakistani faction has been injured and harmed. Their loved ones have been kidnapped, they have been imprisoned, they have been even court-martialed, some of them have even been killed, all throughout these 2 years. So you understand what's going on here, right? I mean, again, because we don't have a cancel culture, that is why we're always sitting and looking at everybody's faces until it becomes so fatal and we still do nothing. How many people have gotten killed just because of the fact that we're sitting down and we're letting things happen, And look at the fatality of it, And compared to it, actually, the next point that I'm going to make is probably going to look like nothing, when it is actually also something because it is what you call a permanent destruction, right? And that is Nestle. As we know, Nestle has been very famous, very notorious for stealing water from South Latin America, right? From the Amazonian River and all. And not only that, because Nestle has been stealing water from Pakistan too. This is again a scam that people were aware of because this is not new. This is something that was highlighted many years ago, when Nestle began its Pure Life bottled water and this and that, and we were all like, why the hell do we need to buy water when we have perfectly safe drinking water? Albeit, Shabazz Sharif, when he was making the roads, remaking the roads that didn't need any reconstruction just to earn kickbacks. And not only did they destroy the 20% of Lahore at that point, Lahore's greenery, but they also ended up poisoning our naturally sweet drinking water. And now Lahore's water actually mimics hard water. Yeah, literally. You will see the whole, white lines and the rust and everything, which you see in European water, or which you see in areas that are close to the sea that don't have natural ground, pure drinking soft water. But Lahore was known for its very sweet drinking, pure clean water. But this time, as you can see, we are not getting that, So kudos to them. And all that while, I mean, as I said, we knew that Nestle was literally conning the whole world, and we knew that they were conning us too, where they were taking water. But that time we heard that they were taking water from the northern areas, from the streams and the springs, and they were bottling them up, right? But now here, understand this, that Nestle, it's become headlines now, that Nestle drains Pakistan's water to sell it back as Pure Life, right? Imagine that. And it further on moves on to tell us that Nestle extracts millions of tears of water every day from, sorry, my eyes are blurring it, from Bhatti Dilwan, Pakistan. And this is from these wells that they're extracting millions of liters of water. God, this is, sorry. So yeah, this millions of liter of water that Nestle has been extracting are from the local wells that fed, the local villages, and then they've been bottling it up and selling it as pure life. And now those wells, they have run dry. And as we know, as I said, they were villagers, different villages that took from these wells. These wells not just sustained them for drinking water, but these wells also sustained the farmers. And so basically, Nestle has been pumping over 60 million liters annually from this place, from Pakistan. And now the wells are running dry. And then Vasa, the water, the government water supply authority, then they come around and say, oh, we are facing a lot of water shortage. What did I tell you? It's deliberate. It's deliberate. Why are you allowing Nestle to illegally siphon off all that water from local wells? And they kept on and on increasing the price of their so-called pure life, by the way. They and yet people now have no access to their own drinking water. And despite the fact that Pakistani activists accused Nestle of water theft, and they had lawsuits, and there were protests against them, despite all of that, Nestle kept on pumping. Yeah, it kept on pumping because, according to Nestle, profits outweighed people. Tell me, if all the people begin to die, who are you going to sell all this water to? Have you ever thought about that? So this is what I'm saying. This is the when you don't have cancel culture, like how we did not boycott Telenor when the whole situation began, where Netherlands, made up cartoons of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, and didn't even apologize. They called it freedom of speech. If that is freedom of speech, then tell me, why is it that every time we talk about Gaza and Palestine, then Metaverse immediately gives us a warning that we have gone against community guidelines, that we have incited hate speech, when we're literally talking facts? Facts. You share a news headline of what's going on in Gaza, and you get you get Instagram telling you, oh, we've removed that post because it was false. False? It is a matter of the fact on the record. It's an actual news. Yeah, don't talk to me about that crap. All I see right now is that the fact that the Muslim world lacks in this cancel culture thing, that is one of the major reasons why we have suffered the most from the 9/11 charade that the American government initiated just so that it could start its wars against different countries that it had in mind to target, so that it could steal minerals and treasures and gold and money from, that, right from all the way through to where they committed the same charade in Europe so that they could force European governments to align themselves with them in this war, because, yes, originally the European governments did not agree with them and they refused to align themselves with them. And many of those countries were pro-Palestine. So to force them to go anti-Palestine, the American establishment, the CIA, and the Israeli Mossad they literally orchestrated those terror incidents in Europe, in Germany in particular, in Italy, in all those, in France, I think, as well. But I mean, basically, they initiated all those terrorist incidents in those parts of Europe to force. It was basically a threat. They were threatening the governments, showing them that if you do not get off your pro-Palestinian policy and get back onto our side, then we're going to do more damage to your countries. And very neatly, they, always seem to have a non existent extremist group ready at hand to take the blame for it. Just like how our army commits terrorist incidents in Balochistan or in KPK or anywhere else, and then they very neatly say, oh, a group called so and so. And where do all these groups come from? It makes you wonder. The Pakistan Taliban has taken credit for this, or the society of so and so has taken credit for this, or the group of so and so has taken credit for this, or Afghanistan has taken credit. Like, seriously, who the frack do you think you're fooling here? It's the same question over and over again. Again, why they keep on and on doing this? This is also something I've said 1,000 times. They have reached to this point because we have allowed them. Silence equals complicity. So you are complicit when you're silent. People think about, oh, the Nazis did so much to the Jews in Europe. How come nobody did anything to stop them? Right now, look at what the Jews and the Americans and the British are doing to the Palestinians. Look at what they did to Syria. Look at what they did to Egypt. Look at what they did to Lebanon. Look at what they did to Libya. Look at what they're doing to Iran. Look at what they did to Iraq. And then you tell me, where the frack are you people sleeping at? That you're not doing anything to stop them. Think about that. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.